Sekien no Inganock is a strange and curious visual novel that I'm not quite sure where to start with. The biggest thing about Inganock is its setting. The game is steampunk, which is fairly uncommon. Steampunk is a type of science fiction where the technology and culture evolved differently starting around the turn of the 20th century. It needn't actually be set on Earth, but it makes heavy use of motifs involving steam power and clockwork, or other technologies which seemed fantastic and foreign compared to contemporary convention. Probably the best example I can give that my viewers would be familiar with is Final Fantasy IX, which merges elements of steampunk and fantasy with the kind of technology seen in steampunk and aesthetics harkening to Baroque and Victorian eras. The story of Sekien no Inganock is set 10 years after the city of Inganock has been isolated from the rest of the world as the result of some calamity. Since the calamity, people have also begun to mutate and have animal-esque features. At this point, I think I should interject that if you're a fan of furries and or steampunk, the rest of this review is pointless, because you should already be convinced. Anyways, the main character is an unlicensed doctor named Guy, who does little other than philanthropic work. He doesn't have any external mutations, but has this highly sophisticated brain and vision, allowing him to perceive problems and then rectify them through a process the game refers to as cracking equations. Towards the end of the first chapter, Guy gains control of an entity known as a Kikai, which allows him to fight great monstrosities with great effect when coupled with his advanced perception. The storytelling of Inganock is very character-centric. My last statement may make this story sound like an action-adventure, but it's really more of a social journey. In most chapters, Guy meets someone with some kind of problem, ultimately resulting in Guy fighting some menace. However, rather than dwelling on the action, it's about character development, including both the backstories of new characters and the continued growth of recurring characters. I don't want to complain about this kind of storytelling, because it's excellent, but my personal bias is a preference for action-packed event-driven narratives, so completing the story felt much less urgent than some other titles, like Muv-Luv Unlimited. Furthermore, it's the kind of writing that creates questions faster than it gives answers. Most of the answers come eventually, but there are a few cause and effect correlations that seem to be left ambiguous, which is probably for the best, as convoluted technobabble can be far worse than curious enigma. I am curious though, if anyone can explain Randolph significant to the plotline, please PM me, because as far as I could tell, the protagonists never meet him, and he never did anything that would have otherwise affected them, so I don't understand why he's even mentioned at all. The storyline is completely linear, which is fine because this isn't a harem erage, so there's no need for path splitting. It does have one annoying gameplay quirk, however. If you watched my Soul Link review, you may recall me complaining about the room searches that almost required a guide to complete. Inganock has the exact same mechanic. Every chapter, you're presented with an opportunity to see people's inner thoughts, and seeing one person's thoughts will unlock other people and lock out others, so you need to read their thoughts in the correct order. If you don't read them in the right order, you might not be able to fight the problem at the end of the chapter. The translation patch installs a walkthrough text file in the game's directory, so make sure you use it. There are a handful of sex scenes in Inganock, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your disposition, they're not smut. The game depicts sex as a natural part of life, and is used as a character development tool, where it is an exposition of relationship nuances and character traits. The narration focuses far too much on the character's personal musings about life to convey much eroticism directly to the reader. The music in Inganock is very unique. In keeping with the steampunk theme of extrapolating turn of the 20th century culture, the music is a hybridization of jazz band and chamber orchestra. So it's like during the jazz development, popular music returned to the classics rather than scaling further down into the 3 to 5 man bands of rock and roll. The visuals give a similar vibe, but I don't think I can say much about them that my backgrounds don't already communicate. Ultimately, Sekien no Inganock is a game I recommend for everyone at least to try out. It's probably not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it's so far off the beaten path that it's hard to tell who will and won't like it. I enjoyed it a lot, but wasn't terribly gripped, Some people might not like it at all, and others might find this to be one of the most fantastic pieces of literature out there.